The morning rush at Riverside Diner was unforgiving. Steam rose from the griddle as orders piled up, and the clatter of dishes created a symphony of chaos that Maya Rodriguez had grown accustomed to over the past 3 years. She moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her black sneakers squeaking against the worn linoleum floor, her notepad already filled with scribbled orders. Outside, November rain hammered against the large windows of the diner, turning downtown Seattle into a blur of grey buildings and rushing umbrellas. The weather had been relentless for days, matching the exhaustion Maya felt deep in her bones. She'd worked a double shift yesterday, and her single mother had called this morning about her younger brother's school fees. Another bill she couldn't ignore. "Order up, table 7. Jimmy, the cook, rang the bell with his usual impatience. Maya grabbed the tray laden with plates, balancing it expertly on one hand while she navigated through the narrow aisle. Table 7 was occupied by a man in an expensive charcoal suit, his attention fixed on his laptop. She'd noticed him when he walked in. Everyone had. He carried himself differently than their regular customers, with a quiet confidence that seemed to command the space around him. His watch alone probably cost more than she made in 6 months. "French toast, scrambled eggs and coffee," Maya announced, setting down the plates with a professional smile. The man barely looked up, nodding absently as he continued typing. Maya had seen his type before. Wealthy business people who treated service workers as part of the furniture, invisible and interchangeable. She turned to leave, but her sneaker caught on something. Time seemed to slow as she felt herself losing balance, the coffee pot in her hand tilting forward. She tried to correct herself, but momentum won. Hot coffee erupted from the pot, cascading directly onto the man's laptop and soaking into his pristine suit jacket. "Oh my God!" Maya gasped, her heart plummeting. "I'm so sorry! I'm so sorry!" The man shot up from his seat, coffee dripping from his sleeves. His jaw tightened, and for a moment Maya saw a flash of anger cross his face. The entire diner fell silent. Even Jimmy had stopped cooking to watch the scene unfold. "I didn't mean to. There was something on the floor. Maya's words tumbled out in a panicked rush as she grabbed napkins, desperately trying to blot the coffee from his suit. Her hands trembled. The man's expression was unreadable as he gently pushed her hands away. "It's fine," he said, his voice tight and controlled, but Maya could see the damage. His laptop was drenched, the screen flickering ominously before going dark. That wasn't just any computer. It looked expensive, probably containing important work. "Your laptop? I'll pay for it, I promise. I can make payments, Maya felt tears threatening to spill. She couldn't afford to lose this job, and she certainly couldn't afford to replace that laptop. "I said it's fine." His tone was firmer now, more commanding. He pulled out his wallet, extracted 2 crisp $20 bills, and placed them on the table. Without another word, he grabbed his ruined laptop and walked toward the door, coffee still dripping from his jacket. Maya stood frozen, watching him disappear into the rain. The diner slowly resumed its normal rhythm, but she felt everyone's eyes on her. Frank, the owner, emerged from the back office, his weathered face creased with concern. "Maya, my office, now!" Her stomach dropped. Frank was a decent man, but this was bad. Really bad. She'd just doused what was clearly an important customer in hot coffee and destroyed his expensive equipment. Frank's office was cluttered with invoices and health inspection certificates. He sat behind his desk, rubbing his temples. "Tell me what happened," Maya explained, her voice shaking. She mentioned the slick spot on the floor, how her foot had caught, how everything happened so fast. Frank sighed heavily. "Look, Maya, you're one of my best workers. You show up on time, you work hard, and customers love you. But that guy, did you see his suit, his watch? People like that can sue us into oblivion." "I know. I'm so sorry, Frank. Please don't fire me. I need this job." Maya's voice cracked. She thought of her mother, her brother's tuition, the rent due next week. "I'm not firing you," Frank said after a long pause. "But you're on thin ice. We can't afford incidents like this. Be more careful, okay?" Relief flooded through her. "Thank you." "I will, I promise." The rest of her shift passed in a blur of anxiety. Every time the door opened, Maya half expected to see a lawyer or a police officer coming to serve papers. She'd replayed the scene in her mind 100 times, the shock on the man's face, the coffee spreading across his expensive clothes, the death of his laptop. As she wiped down tables near closing time, the rain finally began to ease. The city lights reflected in the wet streets, creating shimmering pools of color. Maya stared out the window, wondering who that man was and whether she'd just ruined more than his suit. She'd potentially ruined her own life, too. What she didn't know was that the man, sitting in his penthouse apartment across town, was staring at his ruined laptop with an expression that wasn't anger but something else entirely, something almost like curiosity. Maya arrived at Riverside Diner the next morning with dark circles under her eyes. She'd barely slept, her mind cycling through worst-case scenarios. Lawsuits, bankruptcy, her family losing their apartment. The Seattle morning was crisp and clear, the storm having finally passed, but the sunlight felt too bright, too cheerful for her mood. "You look terrible," said Carmen, her co-worker and closest friend at the diner. Carmen had been waitressing for 15 years and had seen everything. She tied her apron with practiced efficiency, her dark curls pulled back in a neat bun. "Didn't sleep much," Maya admitted, checking her station. She'd arrived early to make sure everything was perfect. No spills, no accidents, no reasons for Frank to reconsider keeping her employed. The morning shift started slowly. A few regulars trickled in, Mr. Peterson with his newspaper and black coffee, the construction crew from the site down the street, a young mother with twins in a double stroller. Maya moved through her routine mechanically, but her heart wasn't in it. Every time the door chimed, she tensed. At 9:47 a.m., the door opened again. Maya was refilling coffee for Mr. Peterson when she heard Carmen's sharp intake of breath. She turned, and her blood ran cold. It was him, the man from yesterday, the CEO she'd drenched in coffee. He wore a different suit today, navy blue, equally expensive, and carried a leather briefcase instead of a laptop bag. But it was definitely him. He had the same commanding presence, the same sharp features, the same air of someone who belonged in boardrooms, not diners. Their eyes met across the room. Maya's hands started trembling, coffee sloshing dangerously in the pot she was holding. She quickly set it down before she could cause another disaster. The man walked directly to the same table he'd occupied yesterday, table 7. He sat down, placed his briefcase beside him, and looked at her expectantly. Maya couldn't move. Her feet felt cemented to the floor. "Girl, he's waiting," Carmen whispered urgently, nudging her. "Go take his order." "I can't. Carmen, please, can you... You spilled coffee on him. You face him. Go." Carmen's voice was firm but not unkind. Maya forced her legs to move. Each step toward table 7 felt like walking to her execution. Her notepad shook in her hands as she approached. "Good morning," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Can I get you something?" The man looked up from the menu, his expression neutral. Up close, she noticed details she'd missed yesterday, the slight grey at his temples, the intensity of his dark brown eyes, a small scar near his left eyebrow. "Coffee," he said simply. "Black, and the same order as yesterday, French toast and scrambled eggs." Maya stared at him, confused. You want me to serve you? After yesterday? Is there a problem?" His tone was professional, businesslike. I thought..." Maya struggled to find words. "I'm so sorry about yesterday, your laptop, your suit, everything. I'll pay for the damages, I just need time to..." He held up a hand, stopping her. "The laptop has been replaced. The suit is at the cleaners, consider it handled. But I should... Coffee, black, please." It wasn't rude, but it was clearly the end of the discussion. Maya nodded and hurried back to the counter, her mind reeling. Carmen gave her a questioning look, but Maya just shook her head, unable to explain what she didn't understand herself. She prepared his coffee with extra care, her hands still shaking slightly. When she returned to table 7, the man was typing on a new laptop, this one even sleeker than the last. "Here's your coffee," she said, setting it down with exaggerated caution, keeping a safe distance. "Your food will be ready shortly. Thank you." He paused, then added, "What's your name?" The question caught her off guard. "Maya Rodriguez." "Maya," he repeated, as if testing how it sounded. "How long have you worked here?" This was strange. Why was he making conversation? 3 years, she answered carefully. "Do you enjoy it?" Maya blinked. It's a job. It pays the bills." She wasn't sure where this was going, and her guard was up. He nodded slowly, returning his attention to his laptop. Maya took that as her dismissal and backed away. Throughout his meal, she watched him from a distance. He ate methodically, occasionally typing, occasionally making notes in a leather journal. He seemed completely unbothered by yesterday's incident, which somehow made her more nervous, not less. When he finished, he signaled for the check. Maya brought it over, along with a to-go cup of coffee on the house. Her peace offering. "I didn't order that," he said, gesturing to the to-go cup. "It's complimentary, the least I can do after yesterday." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening around his eyes. "Thank you, Maya." He paid in cash again, leaving a generous tip. But as he stood to leave, he reached into his briefcase and pulled out a business card. "I'd like to speak with you," he said, extending the card. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. This address." Maya took the card with trembling fingers. It was heavy cardstock, embossed with gold lettering, Alexander Chen, CEO, Chen Industries. "What is this about?" she asked. "An opportunity," he said simply. "Don't be late." And with that, he walked out of the diner, leaving Maya staring at the business card, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and confusion. Carmen appeared at her elbow immediately. "What did he give you?" Maya showed her the card. Carmen's eyes widened. "Chen Industries? Maya, that's one of the biggest tech companies in Seattle. What does he want with you?" "I have no idea," Maya whispered, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Maya stood outside the gleaming glass tower in downtown Seattle, craning her neck to see the top. The Chen Industries building stretched 40 stories into the grey sky, all steel and reflective glass, a monument to wealth and success that felt like another world compared to Riverside Diner. She'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on her only interview outfit, a simple black blazer over a white blouse and dark slacks. It was professional enough, but standing here among people in designer clothes carrying expensive briefcases, she felt like an imposter. The lobby was intimidating. Marble floors, a fountain in the center, abstract art on the walls. A security desk stood between her and the elevators, manned by 2 guards who looked like they could spot someone who didn't belong from a mile away. Maya approached, clutching Alexander Chen's business card like a lifeline. "I have an appointment with Mr. Chen at 2. The guard checked his computer, then nodded. "Ms. Rodriguez, take elevator bank C to the 40th floor. Someone will meet you." The elevator ride felt eternal. Maya watched the numbers climb, her stomach churning with anxiety. What could a CEO possibly want with her? She'd convinced herself this was about legal action. He was going to sue her personally, make her sign something, ruin her life in an official capacity. The 40th floor was executive territory. The elevator opened onto a reception area that screamed money. Plush furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic views of Seattle, fresh flowers on every surface. A woman in her 50s with perfectly coiffed silver hair greeted her. "Ms. Rodriguez? I'm Patricia, Mr. Chen's executive assistant. Please follow me." They walked down a hallway, lined with portraits of board members and photos of company milestones. Maya's anxiety increased with every step. Patricia stopped at a large wooden door. "Mr. Chen is expecting you." She knocked twice, then opened the door. Alexander Chen's office was massive. One wall was entirely glass, offering a breathtaking view of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains beyond. His desk was minimalist but expensive, with 2 sleek monitors and very little clutter. He stood as she entered, gesturing to a chair facing his desk. "Ms. Rodriguez, thank you for coming." "I almost didn't," Maya admitted, sitting down. Her palms were sweating. "But you did." That tells me something. He settled into his own chair, studying her with those intense eyes. Can I offer you something? Water? Coffee? A hint of humor touched his expression at the last word. Despite herself, Maya almost smiled. Water would be good. He poured 2 glasses from a crystal carafe on a side table, then returned to his desk. I'm sure you're wondering why you're here. The thought crossed my mind. Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. Alexander leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Tell me about yourself, Maya. Your background. This wasn't what she'd expected. I'm not sure what you want to know. Everything. Where you're from, your education, your goals. Start wherever feels right. Maya hesitated, then began. She told him about growing up in Tacoma, her father leaving when she was 12, her mother working 2 jobs to keep them afloat. She talked about community college, 2 years completed before her mother got sick, and medical bills forced her to drop out and find full-time work. She mentioned her younger brother, Miguel, who was smart enough for a good university if they could just scrape together the tuition. Alexander listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. When she finished, he nodded slowly. You dropped out to help your family, he said. That takes character. It takes necessity. Maya corrected. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You chose family over personal advancement. Many people wouldn't. He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. I had my team do some research. Your professors at community college had excellent things to say about you. Dean's List both years. Outstanding work ethic. Maya's eyes widened. You investigated me. Due diligence, he said simply. Your manager at the diner, Frank, says you're reliable, honest, and one of his best workers. Carmen Torres says you're the only person there who actually cares about doing a good job. You talked to Carmen. Maya felt violated and confused. Why? Alexander set the folder aside. Because I want to offer you a position. The words hung in the air. Maya was certain she'd misheard. A position? In my company, as my executive assistant. Maya laughed. She couldn't help it. It was absurd. Your assistant just let me in. Patricia. Patricia is retiring in 2 weeks. I need someone new. He leaned forward. Someone smart, hardworking, and not afraid to be honest. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by corporate politics. I spilled coffee on you, Maya said slowly, as if he might have forgotten. I ruined your laptop. Why would you want to hire me? Because of how you handled it, Alexander replied. You didn't make excuses. You didn't blame the equipment or the floor or your circumstances. You took responsibility immediately and offered to make it right, even though it would have cost you months of wages. That kind of integrity is rare. Maya shook her head, overwhelmed. I'm not qualified. I don't have the education, the experience. The salary is $90,000 a year, full benefits, 2 weeks paid vacation, Alexander continued, as if she hadn't spoken. I'll also establish a college fund for your brother, full tuition, room and board. The numbers made her dizzy. 90,000. Her current salary was barely 28, and Miguel's tuition, that alone would change everything. This is insane, she whispered. It's business, Alexander corrected. Do you accept? Maya stared at him, her mind racing. This was too good to be true. There had to be a catch. I need to think about it, she finally said. Alexander nodded, respecting her caution. You have until Monday. But Maya, opportunities like this don't come around often. Don't let fear make your decision for you. Maya didn't sleep at all Friday night. She lay in her small bedroom, staring at the ceiling of the apartment she shared with her mother and brother, turning Alexander Chen's offer over in her mind like a puzzle she couldn't solve. $90,000. The number was incomprehensible. She currently made $28,000 a year, mostly in tips. With that kind of money, they could move out of this cramped 2-bedroom in Rainier Valley. Her mother could finally retire from the grocery store where she'd worked for 20 years. Miguel could go to college without drowning in debt, but nothing in life came free. What was the catch? Saturday morning, she called Carmen. Tell me I'm not crazy, Maya said, pacing her tiny bedroom while her mother made breakfast in the kitchen. You're not crazy, but you might be stupid if you don't take it, Carmen replied bluntly. Mija, this is a lottery ticket. You don't throw away lottery tickets. But why me? It doesn't make sense. Maybe it doesn't have to make sense. Maybe you just got lucky for once. Carmen paused. Or maybe he sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. After hanging up, Maya found her mother in the kitchen. Rosa Rodriguez was 53, but looked older, worn down by decades of struggle. She flipped pancakes with practiced efficiency, humming softly. Mama, I need to talk to you about something. Rosa turned, immediately concerned. What's wrong? Maya told her everything, the coffee incident, Alexander's return, the job offer. Rosa listened in silence, her expression unreadable. 90,000? Rosa repeated when Maya finished. And Miguel's school? Full tuition. Room and board. Rosa sat down heavily, her hand over her heart. Dios mío. This is, Maya, this is everything we've prayed for. But what if it's not real? What if it is? Rosa gripped her daughter's hands. You've worked so hard, mi amor. You've sacrificed so much. Maybe it's time to let something good happen to you. Miguel wandered in, 18 and lanky, still half asleep. When they told him about the college fund, his eyes went wide. Are you serious? I could actually go to UW? The University of Washington had been his dream, but they'd all known it was financially impossible. Seeing her brother's face, the hope lighting up his features, Maya felt something shift inside her. Carmen was right. Her mother was right. This wasn't just about her anymore. On Monday morning, Maya called the number on Alexander Chen's business card. Mr. Chen's office, Patricia answered. This is Maya Rodriguez. I'd like to accept the position. She could hear the smile in Patricia's voice. Wonderful. Can you start Wednesday? That will give me time to begin training you before I leave. The next 2 days were a whirlwind. Maya gave Frank her notice at the diner. He was disappointed, but understanding, even happy for her. Carmen hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. Don't forget about us when you're fancy, Carmen joked, but there were tears in her eyes. Never, Maya promised. Wednesday morning, she stood in front of her closet, staring at her limited options. She'd used part of her last paycheck to buy one new blazer and blouse, but it wasn't enough. Patricia had mentioned business professional attire. Her mother appeared in the doorway. Here, on day she held out her own pearl earrings, the only nice jewelry she owned, a gift from Maya's grandmother. Mama, I can't. Yes, you can. You're going to be magnificent. Rosa fastened the earrings herself, then stepped back to admire her daughter. My smart, beautiful girl, I'm so proud of you. The first week was overwhelming. Patricia trained her 8 hours a day, walking her through Alexander's schedule, his preferences, his communication style. He had back-to-back meetings most days, traveled frequently, and expected efficiency and discretion above all else. He's demanding but fair, Patricia explained. Never lie to him, never sugarcoat bad news, and never waste his time. Do those 3 things, and you'll be fine. Maya took notes frantically, trying to absorb everything. The technology alone was intimidating. Multiple calendar systems, video conferencing software, expense reporting, confidential file management. Alexander himself remained somewhat distant that first week. Their interactions were brief and professional, confirming appointments, discussing priority changes, reviewing documents. He didn't reference their conversation in his office or the circumstances of their meeting. It was as if they'd started fresh, with no history. On Friday afternoon, Patricia gathered her belongings for the last time. The office had thrown her a small retirement party, and now it was just her and Maya in the assistant's workspace outside Alexander's office. You'll do well, Patricia said, handing over the keys and access cards. You're smart, and you're not afraid to ask questions. That's half the battle. I feel like I know nothing, Maya admitted. You know enough. The rest, you'll learn by doing. Patricia squeezed her shoulder. And, Maya, don't let the wealthy ones intimidate you. Remember, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else, even Mr. Chen. After Patricia left, Maya sat at her new desk, her desk, and looked around. The space was beautiful, the view spectacular. the salary life-changing, but the weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. She thought about her old station at Riverside Diner, the familiar chaos of breakfast rush, the simple clarity of orders and tips. This world was so different. Could she really belong here? Alexander's door opened. He stepped out, loosening his tie. "Maya, still here?" "Just organizing for Monday," she said quickly. He nodded approvingly. "Good. See you then. And Maya, you did well this week." It was a small thing, 5 words, but it steadied her. She could do this. She would do this. For her family, for herself, for the future she was determined to build. 3 weeks into her new position, Maya was drowning. She sat at her desk at 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, staring at 3 monitors filled with conflicting calendar requests, unanswered emails flagged as urgent, and a spreadsheet of quarterly reports she didn't fully understand. Alexander was still in his office, on a video call with executives in Singapore. She could hear his voice through the door, calm, authoritative, completely in control. Meanwhile, she was barely keeping her head above water. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How's work, mi amor?" "Good," Maya typed back, which was a lie. She couldn't admit how overwhelmed she felt, not when her family was already benefiting from this job. Miguel had just enrolled at UW for the spring semester. Her mother had given notice at the grocery store. They'd signed a lease on a better apartment in Capitol Hill. There was no room for failure. "Still here?" a voice asked. Maya looked up to find Lauren Kim, one of the junior executives, standing by her desk. Lauren was 32, Stanford MBA, and always impeccably dressed. She also had a reputation for being sharp-tongued and difficult. "Just finishing up some things," Maya said, trying to sound competent. Lauren glanced at the monitors, her expression unreadable. "You're trying to reconcile the Q4 numbers with last year's projections. How did you—" "I can see your screen from here. You're using the wrong baseline data." Lauren leaned over, pointing. "You need last year's adjusted figures, not the preliminary ones. They're in a different folder." Maya felt her face flush. "I didn't know there were 2 versions. Most people don't. Here." Lauren pulled up a chair and spent the next 20 minutes walking Maya through the company's reporting structure, explaining which documents were authoritative and which were drafts, how to track budget modifications, and where to find archived data. "Why are you helping me?" Maya finally asked. Lauren shrugged. "Because everyone struggles at first. The question is whether you're too proud to accept help." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "You seem like you're not. That's good. Pride gets people fired here." After Lauren left, Maya worked for another hour, implementing the corrections. When she finally sent the completed report to Alexander, she felt a small surge of accomplishment. His reply came 2 minutes later. "Good work. Go home and get some rest." The following weeks established a rhythm. Maya arrived early and stayed late, gradually learning the systems and expectations. She discovered that Alexander was demanding, but not unreasonable. When she made a mistake, and she made several, he corrected her directly but without cruelty. When she did something well, he acknowledged it. Other executives were less kind. David Morrison, VP of Operations, treated her like hired help, snapping orders and complaining when things weren't perfect. Jessica Tang, CFO, was cold and dismissive. Only Lauren occasionally offered advice, usually in the form of blunt corrections that somehow felt more helpful than insulting. One morning, Alexander emerged from his office looking frustrated. "Maya, I need you to schedule lunch with Senator Richardson for next week. He's difficult to pin down, but I need it to happen." Maya nodded, but internally panicked. She'd never dealt with a senator before. Where did you even start? She spent the morning researching Richardson's schedule, calling his office repeatedly, and finally managed to reach his chief of staff. The conversation was painful. She stumbled over protocol, forgot to mention key details, and generally sounded inexperienced. But somehow, she got the meeting scheduled. When she reported back to Alexander, he looked surprised. "Wednesday at noon? How did you manage that? Richardson's staff usually stonewalls us for weeks." "I just kept calling." And when I finally got his chief of staff, I mentioned that you'd be discussing the infrastructure bill. I remembered you talking about it in last week's board meeting. Alexander's expression shifted, something that might have been impressed. You pay attention. Good. That afternoon, Lauren stopped by Maya's desk again. I heard you landed Richardson. Nice work. I got lucky, Maya deflected. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. You were prepared. You knew what Alexander needed to discuss. That's not luck. That's competence. Lauren hesitated, then added, there's a professional development workshop next month, strategic communication for executive assistants. You should register. Is that allowed? I'm still pretty new. It's encouraged. Chen Industries invests in employees who show initiative. You're showing initiative. Lauren walked away before Maya could respond. The workshop was eye-opening. Maya met other executive assistants from various companies, learned organizational strategies, and discovered she wasn't alone in feeling overwhelmed. Everyone struggled at first. Everyone made mistakes. The difference was persistence. She returned to work energized, implementing new systems and color-coding priorities. She started anticipating Alexander's needs before he asked, having reports ready before meetings, booking backup reservations for important dinners, flagging emails that required immediate attention. After a particularly smooth week where everything ran perfectly, Alexander called her into his office on Friday afternoon. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Maya sat, her heart racing. Was something wrong? You've been here 2 months, Alexander began. Patricia was with me for 8 years, and in your 2nd month you're already performing at her level. Some areas you're exceeding it. Maya blinked. I am? You're adaptive. You learn quickly and you don't make the same mistake twice. Those are rare qualities. He pulled out an envelope. This is a performance bonus. You've earned it. Maya opened the envelope. The check inside was for $5,000. This is too much, she stammered. It's appropriate for your performance. Maya, you took a chance on this job. I took a chance on you. I'm pleased to see it's working out. He stood, indicating the meeting was over. Enjoy your weekend. Walking out of the building that evening, Maya felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. It took her a moment to identify the feeling. Pride. Not the arrogant kind, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd worked hard and done well. Maybe she really did belong here after all. The trouble started on a grey Monday morning in January, when Maya encountered Vanessa Whitmore in the executive elevator. Vanessa was Chen Industries' VP of Marketing, 45, impeccably styled, and married to a prominent city councilman. She had a corner office on the 38th floor and a reputation for being ruthless. Maya had successfully avoided interacting with her for the past 3 months. Today, that luck ran out. Vanessa stepped into the elevator just as the doors were closing, her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in clipped tones. She glanced at Maya with the same expression someone might give a piece of furniture, acknowledging its existence but finding it irrelevant. No, that's unacceptable, Vanessa said into her phone. Tell them we need the revised proposal by Wednesday or we're moving on. She paused. I don't care what their excuses are. Wednesday, make it happen. She ended the call and turned her attention to Maya. You're Chen's new assistant. Yes, ma'am, Maya Rodriguez. Vanessa's eyes swept over her, assessing. Patricia was with Alexander for 8 years. You've been here, 3 months? 4 months next week. The sound conveyed skepticism. I need to see Alexander this morning. Put me on his calendar. Maya kept her voice professional. Mr. Chen has back-to-back meetings until 3. I could schedule you for 3:15? I said this morning, Vanessa repeated, her tone sharpening. Move something. His morning meetings are all priority commitments. The board's strategic review at 9, and I don't need his schedule recited to me. I need you to do your job and make room. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice dropping to something almost threatening. Do you understand how things work here? When a VP needs access to the CEO, assistants make it happen. The elevator doors opened on the 40th floor. Maya stepped out first, maintaining her composure despite her racing heart. "I understand completely, Ms. Whitmore. However, Mr. Chen's instructions are clear about priority commitments. I'd be happy to schedule you this afternoon, or if it's truly urgent, I can pass along a message and he can decide if—" "Are you really lecturing me about protocol?" Vanessa's voice rose. "You're a waitress who got lucky. Don't forget that." The words hit like a slap. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, anger and humiliation mixing together, but before she could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem?" Alexander had emerged from his office, his expression neutral but his gaze sharp. Vanessa's demeanor changed instantly, her smile warm and professional. "Alexander, good morning. I was just explaining to your assistant that I need 15 minutes with you today. It's about the Thompson acquisition." "Maya's calendar is my calendar, Vanessa. If she says I'm booked, I'm booked." His tone was pleasant but firm. "What specifically about Thompson?" "It's confidential. I need to discuss it privately." "Then it can wait until 3:15, as Maya suggested." Alexander glanced at Maya. "Please put Vanessa down for that slot." He returned his attention to Vanessa. "Anything else?" Vanessa's jaw tightened, but she maintained her smile. "No. That will be fine. Thank you, Alexander." She walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Alexander waited until she was out of earshot before speaking. "What did she say to you?" Maya hesitated, not wanting to seem weak or unable to handle conflict. "Nothing important." "Maya." His voice carried a note of expectation. He wanted the truth. "She called me a waitress who got lucky," Maya admitted quietly. "She's not wrong." "She's completely wrong," Alexander said firmly. "You're here because you're qualified, not because of luck. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He checked his watch. "I need to prep for the board meeting. Hold all calls unless it's urgent." "Yes, sir." As he turned to go back into his office, he paused. "And Maya, you handled that correctly. Don't let executives bully you into changing my schedule. That's exactly the kind of backbone I need." The validation helped, but Vanessa's words still stung. Over the following week, Maya noticed a pattern. Vanessa went out of her way to make things difficult, requesting reports in non-standard formats, scheduling meetings that overlapped with other commitments, and then blaming Maya for the conflicts, making subtle comments about her background within earshot of other executives. Maya tried to stay professional, but the constant needling wore her down. She started second-guessing her decisions, triple-checking everything that involved Vanessa. Lauren noticed. She stopped by Maya's desk one afternoon, setting down a coffee. "Whitmore's giving you hell, isn't she?" "That obvious?" "She does it to anyone she perceives as vulnerable. It's her power move." Lauren leaned against the desk. "My first month here, she made me cry in a conference room. I almost quit." "What changed?" "I realize she only targets people she thinks won't fight back. Once you stand up to her, she backs off." Lauren sipped her own coffee. "She's a bully, and bullies are fundamentally cowards." "I can't just pick a fight with a VP," Maya said. "You don't pick a fight. You hold your ground. There's a difference." The opportunity came 2 days later. Vanessa sent an email at 6 p.m. demanding Maya print and collate 200 copies of a 40-page presentation for a meeting the next morning. Maya looked at the request, then at the clock. The building's print center closed at 6:30. There wasn't time. She walked down to Vanessa's office and knocked. "Come in." Vanessa looked up from her computer, eyebrows raised. "Did you need something?" "I received your request for the presentation copies. The print center closes in 20 minutes, which isn't enough time for a job this size. I can have it ready by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or if you need it earlier, I can arrange an external printing service, but that will cost extra and require approval." Vanessa leaned back in her chair. "I need it at 8 for the meeting." "The meeting starts at 9, Maya said evenly. 8 o'clock delivery gives plenty of time." "I said I need it at 8. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Are you refusing to do your job?" "I'm explaining logistical realities. If you'd like to submit a formal complaint about my performance, Mr. Chen's door is open. Otherwise, I'll have the copies ready at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." The silence stretched between them. Maya held Vanessa's gaze, her heart pounding, but her expression calm. Finally, Vanessa waved a dismissive hand. 8 o'clock is fine. Close the door on your way out. As Maya walked back to her desk, her hands were shaking, but she'd done it. She'd stood her ground. Lauren was right. Sometimes you had to push back. The crisis hit on a Wednesday in February, sudden and devastating. Maya arrived at work at 7 a.m. to find Alexander already in his office, on the phone, his expression grim. The usual calm of the executive floor had been replaced with a palpable tension. People moving quickly, speaking in urgent whispers, clustering around computer screens. Lauren intercepted Maya before she reached her desk. "You haven't heard?" "Heard what?" "Data Bridge. The merger we've been working on for 6 months. It fell through overnight. The board is in emergency session and there's talk of major restructuring. Jobs on the line." Maya felt her stomach drop. "How bad?" "Bad enough that people are already updating their resumes." Lauren's expression was unusually sympathetic. "Look, I know you're new, but if they start making cuts, newest hires usually—" "I understand." Maya cut her off, her voice steadier than she felt. The morning was chaos. Alexander had back-to-back crisis meetings with board members, investors and department heads. Maya rearranged his entire schedule, cancelling non-essential appointments and somehow finding room for a dozen urgent additions. Her phone rang constantly, executives demanding access, reporters requesting comments, partners wanting explanations. By noon, she hadn't eaten or taken a break. She was running on coffee and adrenaline, fielding calls and managing a crisis she barely understood. Alexander emerged from his office at 1 p.m., loosening his tie. He looked exhausted. "Maya, I need—" He paused, really looking at her. "Have you eaten today?" "I'll grab something later." "Now, go take lunch." When she hesitated, he added, "That's an order. You're no good to me if you collapse." She grabbed a sandwich from the building's cafe but couldn't taste it. Her mind kept cycling through worst-case scenarios. If the company had to make cuts, she was vulnerable. 4 months wasn't enough time to prove herself essential. They'd lose the new apartment. Miguel would have to leave UW, her mother. Her phone rang. "Alexander, I need you back. We're holding a press conference at 3. I need you to coordinate with communications, arrange the main conference room, and make sure board members are present." Maya ran back upstairs. The next 2 hours were a blur of logistics, setting up microphones, coordinating with security, briefing reporters, ensuring the live stream functioned properly. She'd never organized anything like this before, but there was no time for doubt. She just did it, one task at a time, checking items off mental lists and hoping she wasn't forgetting anything critical. At 2:45, Alexander emerged from yet another meeting. He'd changed into a fresh shirt and tie, but the strain showed around his eyes. "Is everything ready?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Board members are seated, press is assembled, live stream is active. You're on in 10 minutes. He nodded, then hesitated. "Maya, I want you in the room. Take a seat in the back." "Are you sure?" "I'm not. I'm sure. Come on." The conference room was packed. Reporters with cameras and recorders, board members looking grave, executives sitting in carefully arranged positions. Maya slipped into a seat near the back, trying to be invisible. Alexander stepped to the podium, commanding the room's attention immediately. When he spoke, his voice was calm and authoritative. "Good afternoon. I'm sure you've all heard about the Data Bridge merger falling through. I want to address this directly and honestly." He laid out the situation, the reasons for the merger's collapse, the financial implications, and most importantly, the company's path forward. He didn't sugarcoat or spin. He presented facts, acknowledged difficulties, and outlined concrete plans. "There will be restructuring," he said, "but there will not be mass layoffs. We built this company on the backs of talented, dedicated employees, and we don't abandon them when things get difficult. Instead, we're implementing efficiency measures, reducing executive compensation, including my own, and reallocating resources to our most promising divisions." Maya watched the room's reaction. Reporters scribbled notes. Board members looked relieved, or at least less grim. Executives exchanged glances. During the Q&A, Alexander handled hostile questions with grace, deflected attempts to assign blame, and maintained focus on solutions rather than problems. Maya found herself impressed by his composure under pressure. After the press conference ended, Alexander returned to his office with the board for another closed-door meeting. Maya returned to her desk, processing everything she'd witnessed. Around 6 p.m., executives began leaving, their expressions ranging from relieved to concerned. David Morrison walked past without acknowledging her. Jessica Tang gave her a curt nod. Vanessa Whitmore paused, studying Maya with an unreadable expression. "Still here?" Vanessa asked. "Mr. Chen is still in a meeting." Vanessa tilted her head. "You know, I misjudged you. You handled today well. Patricia couldn't have done better." It wasn't quite an apology, but coming from Vanessa, it was something. Maya nodded. "Thank you." At 7:30, the board members finally left. Alexander emerged, looking drained but oddly energized. "That could have gone worse," he said, sitting on the edge of Maya's desk, an unusually informal gesture. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine. Is the company going to be okay?" "Yes. It won't be easy, but we'll survive. We always do." He stood, rolling his shoulders to relieve tension. "Maya, thank you for today. You kept things running when everything was falling apart. That matters more than you know. I was just doing my job." "You were doing it exceptionally well. Go home, get some rest. Tomorrow will be another long day." As Maya gathered her belongings, she realized something. She'd spent the day terrified of losing this job, of failing, of not being enough. But when the crisis hit, she hadn't fallen apart. She'd risen to meet it. Maybe Lauren was right. Maybe she was more capable than she gave herself credit for, and maybe, just maybe, she'd earned her place here after all. Spring arrived in Seattle with characteristic hesitation, rain giving way to occasional sunshine, cherry blossoms blooming along the streets, people emerging from their winter hibernation with cautious optimism. Chen Industries stabilized. The restructuring proved effective, morale improved, and by March the crisis felt like a distant memory. Maya had been with the company for 6 months now, and the job that once seemed impossible had become her new normal. But something else was changing, something she hadn't anticipated and didn't quite know how to handle. She was starting to see Alexander Chen as more than just her boss. It began with small observations, the way he arrived early each morning, not because he had to, but because he genuinely cared about the company he'd built. His habit of remembering details about employees' lives, asking about Lauren's daughter's soccer games, checking in on how David's father's surgery went, remembering birthdays without prompting from Maya. She noticed his work ethic, staying late, not to micromanage, but to understand every aspect of operations. She saw his fairness when mediating disputes, his willingness to admit mistakes, his habit of crediting others for successes while taking personal responsibility for failures. And gradually, she noticed other things. The way his face softened when he laughed, which wasn't often but was always genuine. The scar near his eyebrow that she'd learned came from a childhood bicycle accident. The fact that he drank his coffee black because his immigrant parents had instilled in him that you don't waste money on fancy drinks when plain works fine. These observations made her uncomfortable. This was her boss. These thoughts were inappropriate, unprofessional, and potentially dangerous to the career she'd worked so hard to build. So she did what she always did when faced with difficult emotions. She ignored them and threw herself into work. One afternoon in late March, Alexander called her into his office for what he described as a planning session. "The tech conference in San Francisco," he began, pulling up his calendar. "It's a 4-day event in May. I need you to come along." Maya had coordinated his travel before, but always from Seattle. "You need me there in person." "Yes, there will be multiple meetings happening simultaneously, schedule changes, urgent communications. I need someone who knows how I work and can make decisions on the fly." He glanced up. "Is that a problem?" "No, of course not. I'll make the arrangements. Book yourself a room at the same hotel. Separate floor is fine, but I need you accessible." He returned to his computer, already moving on to the next item. "And Maya, thank you for agreeing. I know it's beyond your normal duties." "It's fine," she said, but her mind was already spiraling. 4 days in San Francisco, with Alexander, sharing a hotel, working closely, probably grabbing meals together. It was professional, it was normal, and it terrified her. She confided in Carmen over lunch that weekend at their usual spot near Pike Place Market. "So, let me get this straight," Carmen said, sipping her latte. "You're falling for your boss." "I'm not—" Maya stopped, realizing denial was pointless. "It's just admiration. Professional respect. Mija, please. I've known you for 5 years. This is more than respect." Carmen softened. "Is he good to you? Does he treat you well?" "Yes, always. He's professional, respectful. He's never crossed a line or made me uncomfortable." "Then what's the problem?" Maya stared into her own coffee. "The problem is I was a waitress 4 months ago. He's a CEO worth millions. I'm his employee. There are about 1,000 reasons why this is a terrible idea. Or maybe there's one reason why it's not," Carmen countered. "Maybe you're both good people who connect. That's rare, Maya. Don't dismiss it just because the circumstances aren't perfect." "I'm not going to act on it," Maya said firmly. "I can't risk this job. My family depends on it." Carmen reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I'm not saying act on it. I'm saying don't torture yourself for feeling something human. Just be open to possibilities." The San Francisco trip arrived faster than Maya wanted. She packed conservatively, professional clothes, minimal accessories, comfortable shoes. She told herself this was just work, an extension of her normal duties, nothing to be nervous about. The flight down was uneventful. Alexander worked on his laptop while Maya reviewed the conference schedule and double-checked meeting confirmations. They shared a cab to the hotel, but went to separate rooms. She was on the 15th floor, he was on the 20th. The first 2 days were hectic. Maya coordinated back-to-back meetings, handled urgent calls from Seattle, and ensured Alexander was wherever he needed to be at exactly the right time. They grabbed quick meals between sessions, nothing fancy, usually just sandwiches or salads from the hotel restaurant. On the 3rd evening, after the official conference events ended, Alexander suggested dinner at a quieter restaurant away from the hotel. "To decompress," he explained. "These events are exhausting." They found a small Italian place in North Beach, tucked away from tourist crowds. The atmosphere was intimate, candlelight, soft music, couples dining at nearby tables. Maya felt suddenly hyper-aware of the setting. This felt less like a business dinner and more like something else. They ordered wine at Alexander's suggestion. As they waited for their food, he leaned back in his chair, some of the CEO formality dropping away. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. Maya's heart rate increased. "Okay. Are you happy? With the job, I mean. It's been 6 months. You've never said." She considered the question carefully. "I'm grateful. The opportunity you gave me changed my family's life. My brother's thriving at UW, my mother retired, we're in a better apartment." "That's not what I asked," Alexander interrupted gently. "I asked if you're happy." Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and saw genuine curiosity in his expression. Not the CEO assessing an employee, but a person asking another person a real question. "I am," she said honestly. "I was terrified at first. Sometimes I still am. But yes, I'm happy. I'm learning and growing in ways I never thought possible." "Good." He smiled, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "I'm glad. You've exceeded every expectation, Maya. I want you to know that." The waiter arrived with their meals, breaking the moment. But something had shifted between them, something unspoken but undeniable. As they ate and talked about life, goals, families, dreams, Maya realized Carmen was right. This wasn't just professional respect. This was something more. Something neither of them had acknowledged yet, and she had no idea what to do about it. The conversation happened on their last evening in San Francisco. The conference had ended successfully. Alexander had secured 2 major partnerships and delivered a keynote speech that generated significant buzz. Maya had orchestrated everything flawlessly, and they both knew it. They stood on the hotel rooftop bar, overlooking the city lights. The San Francisco fog was rolling in, creating halos around the streetlights below. Maya held a glass of wine she'd barely touched, her stomach too knotted with unspoken tension to drink. "We should talk," Alexander said quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "About what's happening between us." Maya's breath caught. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "I'm not imagining this, am I? This connection." She could deny it. Keep everything professional and safe. Protect her job, her family's security, her carefully rebuilt life. But she'd spent too many years pretending, hiding, making herself smaller. Carmen's words echoed in her mind. "Don't torture yourself for feeling something human." "No," Maya said softly. "You're not imagining it." Alexander closed his eyes briefly, releasing a breath. "I was hoping you'd say that. And terrified you would." "Why terrified?" "Because this complicates everything." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of uncertainty. "You're my employee. There's a power dynamic that makes this ethically questionable. If I pursue this, I'm potentially putting you in an impossible position." "And if you don't pursue it?" Maya challenged, finding her courage. "We just pretend these feelings don't exist. Work together every day and ignore this?" "I don't know," Alexander admitted. "I've never been in this situation before. I've built my career on clear boundaries, professional standards. This crosses every line I've drawn." Maya set down her wine glass. "Can I tell you something? 6 months ago I was terrified of losing my job at a diner that paid minimum wage. You offered me an opportunity that changed my entire family's life. I will always be grateful for that." "But," Alexander prompted, "but I didn't ask for these feelings. They just happened. And I'm tired of feeling guilty for being human, for connecting with someone who makes me want to be better." She met his gaze directly. "You're not taking advantage of me, Alexander. I'm not some naive girl who doesn't understand her own mind. I know exactly what this is and what it could mean." "What is it?" he asked softly. "Two people who see each other, really see each other. Not CEO and assistant, not wealthy and poor, not powerful and powerless. Just two people who connect." Alexander stepped closer. "If we do this, if we explore this, things have to change. I won't have you reporting directly to me. The company has policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. We'd need to be transparent with HR, restructure your role, probably face gossip and judgment from people who'll assume the worst." "I know," Maya said. "None of that scares me as much as walking away from something real because it's complicated. It will be more than complicated. Some people will think you slept your way into this position. Others will question my judgment. Vanessa Whitmore will have a field day." Maya almost laughed. "Vanessa already thinks I'm unqualified. At least if we're together, she'll have an actual reason instead of just snobbery." "This isn't a joke," Alexander said, but there was warmth in his voice. "Your career, your reputation, I won't let you sacrifice those for me." "Then don't let me," Maya replied. "Help me build a career that stands on its own merit, regardless of our relationship. I've proven I can do this job. Keep pushing me to be excellent, and no one can question whether I earned my place." Alexander studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took her hand. The simple touch sent electricity through her. "We do this right," he said firmly. "Transparent with HR, clear professional boundaries, restructured reporting lines. And if at any point you feel pressured or uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. This only works if you have complete agency." "I understand. And we take it slow. No rushing into anything. We both have too much at stake." "Slow is good," Maya agreed, though her racing heart disagreed. Alexander smiled then, genuinely smiled, and Maya realized she'd never seen him look quite so unguarded. "I should probably kiss you now, but we're in public and I have a reputation to maintain." "That's very CEO of you," Maya teased. "Tomorrow, when we're back in Seattle and have filed the appropriate paperwork, I'm taking you to dinner. An actual date, not a business meal. Will there be forms to fill out for that too?" "Probably several," he said dryly. "Welcome to corporate romance." They stood there on the rooftop, As fog rolled over the city, hands linked, neither quite ready to let go and return to the reality waiting below. 3 months later, Maya sat in her new office, not as Alexander's assistant anymore, but as Director of Executive Operations, a role she'd earned through 7 months of exceptional work. Lauren had been promoted to VP, and they now collaborated regularly on strategic initiatives. The gossip had been brutal at first, just as Alexander predicted, but Maya weathered it by doing excellent work, maintaining professionalism and refusing to engage with speculation. Gradually, people judged her on merit rather than assumptions. Her family had adjusted to everything beautifully. Rosa loved Alexander, who came to Sunday dinners and charmed her completely. Miguel jokingly called him the guy my sister spilled coffee on, which never stopped being funny. Alexander appeared in her doorway now, holding 2 cups of coffee, one black for himself, one with cream for her. "Ready for the board meeting?" he asked. Maya took the offered cup, their fingers brushing briefly. Even after 3 months together, the touch still sent warmth through her. "Always. That's my girl," he said quietly, then added louder for anyone passing by. "Director Rodriguez, excellent work on the quarterly report." She grinned at the formality, understanding the game they played. Professional in the office, personal everywhere else. As they walked together toward the conference room, Maya thought about the coffee spill that had started everything. It had seemed like a disaster, a moment that could have ended her career before it began. Instead, it had been the beginning of something extraordinary. Sometimes the worst accidents lead to the best opportunities. Sometimes a spilled cup of coffee changes everything. And sometimes the story that starts with humble versus wealthy ends with 2 people meeting as equals, building something together that neither could have created alone. If you've made it this far, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next stories. Leave us a comment letting us know where in the world you're watching from. Your support inspires us to keep creating content like this. Thank you for being here with us.